Be a part of the show by calling 915-544-KTSM, 915-544-5876, or comment online on our stream at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. It's 4 p.m. Mountain Time, and that means it's time to talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages. We're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv. Andrew J. Polk, Matt Olson kicking off the day already, and of course demonstrating the other than pages we're up on over on the Facebook with the I think I got enough O's in there for how you put it, but in any case, of course, you want to chime in, make yourself known, particularly your positions know. That's the right way to do so as we embark upon another day of missions. Also, Manda Manganda over there on the Twitch stream, to appreciate it with the howdy to you as well. Another mission of getting to the two major parts that the overarching ones anyway, of talking about the things that affect us here in the Borderland, because no one else is going to have that discussion the way we are. And also just, having the ability to do so, having live local talk radio in our area, because damn it, I think we deserve it. And I'm not going to be dissuaded of that contention anytime soon as we delve into a lot more interesting, impacting, and important things in our area, including county commissioners, after mentioned yesterday, is going to be a funding revenue bonds for a new hospital approved by El Paso County commissioners into outfitting a new orthopedic, surgical, and general surgical hospital out on the east side here, as well as some updates, some unfortunate updates on the streets, worker shortages affecting repairs to some very critical things that y'all are probably going to be running into. Delve into that, as well as some updates, some features that we had talked about years ago at this point of food systems and things like that available in our area, some updates to what is available there. And of course, got to check in with the Texas legislature, including some of the impacts of like that CHIPS Act, the Texas CHIPS Act, I should say, that was recently signed, I think this week, by Governor Greg Abbott, as well as the kerfuffle that is continuing going on, almost like a shadow boxing thing at this point. I got to be honest with you, between the House and the Senate here in Texas when it comes to how are they going to deal with property tax and relief and reform. They both agree it should happen, but oh boy, it's kind of like saying, oh well, which is the best way, which is the shortcut. And if you've had any fights before directions, I guess it's gotten less common ever since, to date myself, MapQuest kind of fell off as a printed out beforehand, and now we just go off the GPS. But Dan Meadows and always loving the kerfuffle, because I mean it's still going on, though the governor trying to broker a kind of peace. Maybe you could argue that way. Even if, again, the shadow boxing part is one of those sessions isn't even in one of those chambers isn't even in session right now. So it complicates the situation there a little bit. But one of our main things in our interview today, going to be talking with a George Zavala, community advocate, and specifically the filer of the ethics complaint against City Rep Cassandra Hernandez, and that being filed over the gas card issues. But of course, there's been a lot of action and movement and more information coming out since that point, including what's going on with the P cars, either purchasing or procurement, depending on who you ask, frankly. But those expenditures and those issues, so, and I will fully agree with Matt Olson, kerfuffle is an absolutely underutilized word. Just like conflagration, though I don't have much cause to use that one. Maybe once we, hopefully, knock on wood, don't end up with any wildfires in our area. But hey, it applies there as well. So anyway, a lot to get into today. That'll be our interview today. We do have responses from some of the current and former city reps that are implicated in those investigations as well, and probably will be doing a lot more with them in the future as well. So a lot to get into today, a lot that we're going to be focusing on, a lot bringing to y'all. So I hope you're strapped in for another one, because it never stops in El Paso. I know, like growing up, I remember people were saying, oh, there's nothing to do here, there's nothing going on. And then I started paying attention to local elections, and I was dissuaded of that notion very quickly, as I've had some other friends who have been saying like, why did anyone ever say that the elections are boring here, or that politics is boring here, because it just means they're not paying attention, of which I'm going to keep that contention, has pretty much always been the case. But delving into that, and one of the ones we mentioned off the top of the hour yesterday, county approves $55 million bond for UMC to open new surgical hospital in East El Paso. That from our news partners there at Kate Fox 14, near George Dieter and Physicians Drive, where Legend Health Hospital operated before closing in January, as I mentioned yesterday on some of the commentary that had been sent to us, as well as some others commenting during the meeting, that this came about starting in about February. So the bond money, according to Ryan Milkey, UMC Director of Public Affairs, the bond money will allow UMC to purchase the hospital, equipment, and hire staff. And so the 40 beds that are there, it's an interesting thing. And of course, as our news partners at KFOX 14 noticed, we also have Eric von Holstein-Rathlow chiming in with a hello and the wave to you as well, that this bond, this revenue bond, the way to put it in the technical clarification of it, that there was this in the aftermath of the $300 million in certificates of obligation bonds, which would have been taxpayer-funded debt that wouldn't have required voter approval, but ended up having some of the petitions end up being filed against it. So this is a different way. So UMC, again, Milkey speaking here, saying that the bond is another way to accomplish some of the projects it intended to fulfill, but in a different way. As we also have a Willie Jenkins joining us over on the social media. Hello to you as well. So Milkey saying, quote, does she mean another way to provide some of what we were trying to get through certificates of obligation? Yes, of course. We were trying to alleviate demand that our community is experiencing. And so this being a revenue bond puts it a little bit closer to, okay, it may not be a total apples to apples comparison, but closer to, say, road projects. We've had a number of road projects exist in this area that were then supposed to be tolled, like the Border Highway West expansion that is not too far, at least in part, an access point from our offices here on the west side on Mesa. But those gantries, the ones that are supposed to scan you and then bill you, of course, have never been not turned on, but activated in a actually going to charge you kind of way. Still reading 00 as far 0.00 charge for use of it. Of course, that plan, aware of it for better part of a decade, was supposed to be that usage of it, particularly during, part of the plan that was floated during, say, like rush hours or for heavier vehicles, more axles, etc., would have increased charges in order to say, hey, if you want to get in the fast lane, so to speak, you can, but you're going to get charged for it. Still hasn't been turned on. They were ready, kind of looking through the mists of history, it feels like at this point in time, right before the pandemic, I feel like. And what they've said most recently, the last status I'm aware of there, that no, there has not been the decision to turn on the billing for that yet. But if it does happen, they'll alert local media, basically. So yeah, I expect we talk about it here. The reason I'm mentioning any of that is because the entire point of there being tolls on it is that, there was money that was borrowed in order to do that construction. And in that case, part of the reason they were going to be doing that, well, that tolling was in order to support it and also maintenance down the road, so to speak. And so it's a similar-ish model to this hospital. So essentially what UMC is saying, my reading, not their words, is that this is going to be something that will generate revenue, and therefore that will pay for the bonds on it, and including the interest-only payments, only going until 2026, if I'm not mistaken, on some of their filings there. So in this case, some of the conversation I remember coming up recently, at least when that $300 certificates of obligation bond came up, was we also have Sean Gardner. Good afternoon to you as well over on the social media. A conversation at that point is like, well, if it's needed, wouldn't it be supported by private industry, and shouldn't they take care of it? I guess that shifts the conversation a little bit in this case because, well, the situation here is that this was private institution that ended up not being able to continue on and succeed. So maybe they're going to try to say that it has different margins, different revenues, different possibilities with it. So we'll see there. Willie Jenkins, somewhat ungenerously, I might say, project delayed extortion. Not sure if you're talking about the hospital or the roadways there, but well, let's just say that neither has happened just yet, though this one would not be on anyone passing by, like the roadways. Why, again, it's not apples to apples, I'll freely admit that, but that the people who are going to actually be there is part of the services with it. And County Judge Ricardo Samaniego did say this, that UMC will have to pay back the loan and it will not fall on taxpayers, adding quotes, we added language that even if they refinance, because this is an interim loan, then they are going to refinance. We wanted to make sure that during the refinance that things don't change and not have it fall either on our responsibility or it falls on the responsibility of the taxpayer. If for whatever reason things don't work out they would have to go out to the voter and for them to decide. So, interesting one. And of course, there is some more hiring that they're going to be expecting to do there. The full list of the possibilities, including the email for the HR manager and the upcoming hiring fair is over with our news partners there at KFOX 14. John Browson is saying there goes your property tax decrease, and saying that how many surgery centers are there in El Paso? They can't all make money. And I mean, that's, well, maybe not. I'm not going to pretend to be a business expert, particularly in the healthcare field, because let's just say I beat my head against enough on insurance as it is to try and be on the back end of it there. No, thank you. But I will say that there has been a long reported dearth of lack of medical facilities in El Paso. So we'll see. I mean, again, this has been approved, so it's going to move forward. And again, the intention is for it to not have any public tax implications, again, given what was said there by the El Paso County judge. So, I mean, the facility exists in this case. And I mean, you can already see the pictures of the hospital building that, again, already exists out that way. Similar-ish style, I would say, to, it almost looks like a kind of that UTEP Bhutanese style, if I'm going to be a architect critic here for a half second. But in any case, that moving forward. But of course, there's a lot of other things and other maybe not so positive, particularly maintenance things happening in our area, such as another one, El Paso Water, all repair projects delayed due to shortage of workers and paving materials. Yeah, that's not a fun one. Speaking to our news partners at KFOX 14, a local landlord told them that the alleyway behind her property has been filled with potholes ever since a water main break on May 22nd near Schuster and Rim Road. Not an area of town known for its exactly most smooth pavement, I would have to say. Specifically the landlord of 1707 North Stanton. And so Renee Leon, a legislative liaison for El Paso Water, sent a statement to our news partners there saying, quote, El Paso Water's top priority when responding to a main break is to repair the main and restore water service to our customers. We then work to return the pavement to usable condition for traffic while we follow the necessary processes to permanently repave the site. He says, going on to say that El Paso Water, or EP Water, correct myself there, works as quickly as possible to repave damaged streets. However, we currently expect extended paving timelines due to a shortage of labor and materials experienced by paving contractors. To help expedite this process, EP Water currently is working to bring on board additional contractors to improve our response to paving needs. Not exactly sure if this is going to be the same kind of circumstances, as we also have Ida Beza Gardner. Hi, and wave to you as well, as going on in some other major road projects where the contractor actually went bankrupt in that case. But I guess things continue to be strange, weird, and not great when it comes to some of these issues. Again, both labor and materials noted, at least for some of the contractors currently on board. If other contractors can fill that, great, because the only thing worse than not being able to have water in your house, kind of one of those requirements for life, particularly in our area, as we're getting into those. I don't think the forecast called for exactly triple digits yet, but we're getting there, and we're going to be there before too long. Yeah, our trial period of non-summer is certainly elapsing here in the very short term. But in any case, not being able to then get to your house otherwise, not a great thing either. Anyway, we got to take that first break of this hour right now. Again, getting into after this break, our interview with George Zavala, again, the filer of the ethics complaints related to, or the ethics complaint, but also the updates coming to that whole situation involving city council, the procurement or purchasing cards, that the new wrinkle of it, his major part being on the actual gas cards itself, but there have been even updates on that, further investigation, so we're going to delve into all of that, so stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Phone lines a little bit later, as we usually do, but in any case, stay tuned. A lot more to come, a lot more discussion of what affects us here in the Borderland, so don't go anywhere.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
On Gateway South after Trans Mountain, a stalled vehicle is blocking the right lane, causing slowing. Stay to the left there. I-10 eastbound is very slow. 20-minute delays from Vinton all the way down to Wrestler with stop-and-go traffic. Not making it any better, South Desert Boulevard at Artcraft, a stalled semi is blocking the right lane. Some delays from that. And an accident reported Pelicano westbound at Zaragoza. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Macy's Backstage. What will you find at Macy's Backstage? Here's a hint. Great Father's Day gifts for $20 and under, like classic polos, grill accessories, grooming sets, and more. Perfect for every dad. Find the latest trends and new arrivals at a Macy's Backstage store near you.
Shopping for a gift for dad or grad? Get Rosetta Stone for 40% off now through June 18th. Learning a language will expand their horizons and open up new opportunities in career, travel, and more. Choose from Spanish, Italian, Japanese, and over 20 more languages. Rosetta Stone memberships are for life, so your present gets them forever access to language learning tools they can use for years to come. Get it now at rosettastone.com. 40% off ends June 18th.
Car crimes are on the rise. Protect yourself and your valuables this holiday season. When you park your car, always lock it down. Never leave keys in your vehicle. Never leave your windows down. Don't leave your valuables in plain sight, or you might return to a terrible sight. Try to park in well-lit areas. And most importantly, always lock it down. Brought to you by the Insurance Council of Texas and the Motor Vehicle Crime Prevention Authority. Learn more at lockitdowntx.com.
Hi, I'm Burt Ward, Robin from TV's Batman, inviting you to feed your dog natural, non-GMO, Gentle Giants dog and puppy food. Dogs eating Gentle Giants and following our special feeding and care program are living as long as 27 healthy, active years with a wonderful quality of life. Holy wow, 27 years! Think of all the extra years you could enjoy with your dog at Target, H-E-B, and stores near you. Try Gentle Giants cat and kitten food, too.
At Simply Safe, we design award-winning security to protect every inch of your home. It's easy to set up yourself, and now there's an even easier option. Have an expert do it for you with Simply Safe Pro Install. Always protecting, never a contract. 2 easy installation options, backed by 24/7 professional monitoring for less than $1 a day. Get 20% off any new system with Fast Protect monitoring at simplysafe.com/radio. There's no safe like Simply Safe.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, either under Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk. Those dropping those likes and reacts. James Holmes, Ida Beza Gardner, Sean Gardner, Flaco Jimenez, Robbie Flores, and Monica Cervantes. And getting into some of the deep stuff, some of the overarching conversations recently, particularly involving city council and the, let's just call it the spending cards in general, because the whole situation started last month, let's put it that way, and specifically came to a specific action being taken by one local citizen, as is noted by our news partners at KFOX 14 that had some of the video from the stream that I saw and we talked about at the time. George Zavala held a kind of a joint news conference in front of City Council back at the end of last month, Friday, May 26th, specifically when he filed an ethics complaint with the City Ethics Review Commission for specifically on current city rep Cassandra Hernandez after there were the allegations and investigations into potential use or misuse of the city-issued gas card. Now, of course, there's been some more developments, frankly, a lot more developments, not even just related to the gas card itself, though there have been more there, including further investigation into not just last year, but this year, but of also other cards, spending cards. P cards is the general term that's been used for them, depending on who you ask. It's either standing for procurement or purchase card. And I mean, some of the investigations have been going on in our area, including looking at six-figure spending from, like, say, the city manager's office, or specifically major amounts being spent, particularly in single days by current and even former city reps. So wanted to sit down, talk with him. We ended up doing this by phone as Mr. Zavala under the weather, but was able to speak with him and get into the details of why he filed his complaint, the why he did it, and also his response to the continuing information and, frankly, expanding investigations that are coming out about it. So we're going to get into that interview. So here that is. Enjoy. Joining me now, we have George Zavala, community advocate. Thank you very much for joining us here today.
Thank you, sir, for having me.
absolutely have to have you on, as there's been a lot going on and a lot of investigation stuff, but you're one of the more definable people that has taken specific action in regards to and in response to what's been going on El Paso City Council, and specifically that of at the point in time when you filed it, the gas card investigation. And so a little bit of background there. There was information came to light about the usage of certain city gas cards, ones that were provided to specifically city council, and as you basically allege, the misuse of them, right?
Yes. So basically, my concerns have always been, I'm a taxpayer, a homeowner, and paying the taxes has always been a struggle. Because myself, other people are low income, and so I've always seen, the expenditures of city council as a whole regarding to other projects and whatnot. But when it starts coming to city council members themselves, when I allege misuse of gas cards, it just kind of solidifies that common, well, not common, I shouldn't say common, but that thought of being corrupt within city council, and kind of ignore that because that's just discussion. But when something like this happens, and then it's black and white, when it came on a certain local station, that kind of got me upset. And I'm like, you know what, enough is enough. And I filed the ethics complaints on March the 26th.
So this ethics complaint that you ended up filing, what was included in it, and who was it specifically put towards?
So I filed a complaint against Ms. Cassandra Hernandez. There's two parts. The first part of the complaint was in regards to the fuel cards, and I referenced exhibits regarding the local station that had the story that ran, of course, the ordinance, and then also on the second part of my complaint was regarding Ms. Hernandez advocating for Proposition J, which is prohibited, and actually the city manager or city attorney actually advised city council not to do that. But that part of my complaint was dismissed. But the second part, or the first part, had moved forward as of June the 8th.
So there's already been some action on your specific complaint with, again, like you said, part of it dismissed. But so then if the other part is still there, are you aware of what's going on with it, if it's moving forward, or what the process is at this point?
Yes, sir. So the process is what I was advised, that my original ethics complaint would be forwarded to an outside counsel, and this one was in particular was, I believe, is Mr. Garza out of San Antonio. He looked at the complaint and he dismissed the second part, like I said earlier. The first part, he said there's sufficient. It falls within the Ethics Commission's guidelines, so he forwarded to the commission. But the part after that, as of June the 8th. Ms. Cassandra Hernandez has 14 days to respond, fill out an affidavit, submit it to the city clerk's office, and thereafter 30 days they will have to put it into in front of the city ethics commission in the hearing.
Okay, so in that part of the process here, as we are recording this here in roughly mid-June at this point here, so you mentioned a little bit about your concerns about it, but why did you decide to go about it in this specific way, going through city council, and among other things that you ended up doing a live stream on the Friday that you ended up submitting these as you were talking about it immediately after? So definitely wanting to make people aware of this, it seems like.
What it is on my primary role in life, I guess you want to call it, I'm a disability rights advocate. And what I learned is to expose the issue. The more people know the issue, the more response you get. And secondary, there has to be some kind of consequence regarding the action. So with Ms. Hernandez, yeah, you could go to the city council, or you could, talk to the media, but that doesn't really have, a tangible effect. But when you use a mechanism that are in place, within city government, like the SS Commission, so I decided, okay, if I do that, at least there might be some kind of, response or even discipline towards Ms. Hernandez, because hopefully this sets some type of precedence with going forward that, people, us citizens, us constituents should be tired of this and just say, instead of complaining, do something about it. Put into the process that's there, and hopefully that process will come out to where that person is disciplined.
Again, if you're just joining us, guest right now is George Zavala, community advocate, and specifically as we're talking about, filer of that ethics complaint against sitting city rep Cassandra Hernandez. So when it comes to that, I mean, some of the information that was out at the point in time in which you filed this, and again, you had the live stream that I mentioned on our airwaves, is that there was, again, about $7,000 in usages that were being essentially a part of your thing, and also being talked about within other reporting, as you're mentioning, being a misuse, including some implications of the use of these gas cards that are, again, provided to city council for in general official city business, even if that's maybe not be the exact phrasing, say within the ordinance or within the policies behind it, but that some of these usages were happening of large amounts and like full gas tank, so to speak, on consecutive days, as well as happening during city council meetings at which Mrs. Hernandez was present.
I see that's the emphasis of my concern. Of my complaint is her ability or the privilege that she was given as a city council member. She's given certain privileges regarding the gas card and the procurement card and all this stuff. But at the end of the day, we have to understand that these people we are giving them the right to be our city council. We elected them, we voted for them. And so we give them all these privileges, and when they start taking advantage of it, that kind of grows concern regarding what else have they done. It might be like how they say when there's smoke, there's fire. And to me, that's the main emphasis why I've made that complaint, because this is black and white. I mean, it's, through the audit, so it's the city's own audit, it showed, indication that there is some alleged misuse. Now, there's a term I use. I don't know if it's still, good nowadays. When I was taking criminal justice, 12 years ago, it was called constructive knowledge. So basically, if you touch a stove after you cook, you touch it, you burn yourself, well, because it's hot. Same thing here. If you have consistent days of gas, being filled on two different vehicles, and so that that has concerns, and then having a local station run a video of the spouse filling up his 2022 Tacoma. I mean, come on, that's just black and white. And I think that what really bothers me too, Mr. Polk, is El Paso, is a low income city, because whatever we want to talk about, education or lack of jobs, but what it is that we're getting tired of paying high taxes when we don't have to. Now, this misuse of gas cards is a little drop in the bucket. I understand that, but it has to start somewhere. There has to be some type of what's that word I'm looking for? Accountability. There has to be. If we don't, it's just going to spiral and spiral. We were in debt, over $2 billion, and stuff like this. So that's why I'm going back to my, the emphasis of my complaint is, what else is behind the doors? What else is that? So this is kind of putting city council as a whole on notice.
And to that point specifically, then, again, just a couple of notes here that Cassandra Hernandez has now responded to this and this situation, saying that she wrote a check to cover the amount of the gas card use for the period of time that you had filed your complaint specifically on, though there are some more changes and further investigations that have either begun or come out since then that we'll get into here in a minute. But, of course, what she did, again, in response to essentially this immediate situation was paying that back, and also an interesting message posted online about then a gas card giveaway through her office, which was an interesting tactic to go about that. But of course, some of the other reporting that has come out around this is that Cassandra Hernandez was not necessarily alone on city council in seeing large amounts of usages of the gas card, that former city rep Claudio Rodriguez was also kind of being implicated in this, in the potential misuse pending further investigation. Of course, nothing has been firmly decided as of the time that we are recording this, starting off initially as basically an internal review of policies and usages within city council. But again, notably, your complaint was only against Cassandra Hernandez. So to those that are saying that, well, what about the other part of this? Why did you end up filing it in that specific way?
So what I was advised is, and when I say advised by the city clerk's office, is you have to be a constituent of that particular city rep. And my city rep is Cassandra Hernandez. Now, mind you, if it was Claudia or Rodriguez, absolutely. And that's what I said when I had the news conference, is that we have to be more. We have to put our elected officials to be accountable, and hopefully, by my actions, will trigger other individuals that are listening to do the same. Not just sit there and complain, because we've done that. We've done that so many times regarding other projects the city has done, and it still doesn't do nothing. But when you step up and say, you know what, we want accountability. We want some kind of retribution where the person's responsible for what they do. And hopefully with this, like I said, it'll set a precedent, because going back to my main mantra of this is the misuse of the fuel card, alleged misuse. Now, doesn't mean that it's a criminal charge yet, right? Because that's still pending. But the ethical component of it is anyone else that does this in their workplace, you, Mr. Polk, anyone listening, myself, if we're to do anything within that level, I guarantee we'll be terminated. I've seen people get terminated for lesser things. And this is where we need to step up to city council. You know what? Stop spending our money, and stuff that doesn't count. I mean, think about this, okay? A 2022 Tacoma, okay? And now her husband's, Mrs. Hernandez's spouse fills up his vehicle. And we're struggling to pay bills. I'm struggling to pay my light bill. And yet they have the gall to do that. So what does that tell about character, about ethics?
One of the things that you said as part of the news conference here, so of course the ethics review process is ongoing, and again, further investigations are going into this that we'll get into here in a minute. But a last question I want to ask this segment is part of what you said is, again, about accountability, about responsibility. And one of the things I believe that you called for was for Representative, again, Cassandra Hernandez to potentially either be removed or step down. Do you still feel that she should be either voluntarily or involuntarily removed from office over this?
Yes, and the reason why I stick to that is because on March the 9th, she was interviewed in front of City Council or City Hall, and she was asked directly, this is on video, have you ever had one of your family members use a gas card? And she stated, I could definitely say no. Now, that's incorrect, as we know. We'll talk in later. But to me, that sets the precedent of she was noticed or put on notice that, she asked that question, has anyone used the card? And she said no. Now we know that's not true. So to me, that's lying. So to me, if you can't trust someone, then they shouldn't be your city rep. They shouldn't be anything within your circle. If you can't trust that person doing the basic stuff, in other words, if I can't trust them, how can they be my voice?
Again, if you're just joining us, guest right now is George Zavala, community advocate. And just as a note here, we will be reaching out to, based on this interview, to Cassandra Hernandez's office for response on this, though we've, of course, included some of the things that have been said previously when it came to the filing of these complaints. And there's still, of course, the pending period for her to file her own affidavit in response to this. But, of course, some of the changes that have been going on since you initially filed this ethics complaint has been further investigations going on of City Council, its usage and its policies, including the city auditor, internal auditor has begun investigation of purchasing cards, or P cards, also known as procurement cards, I do believe. So that's the first part of our interview with, again, George Zavala. But we got to take that break right now. Well overdue for it, actually. Going to squeeze in the rest of it in this next segment here, where we get into, again, those purchasing cards, and got some other questions and commentary coming in. I will say at this point, we did reach out to the not the campaigns, for the both the former city rep and the current one implicated here so far. So we're going to talk further about that. We have their commentary, and we'll be speaking further with them, and currently being planned. But got to take that break right now. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break. You're on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, everyone. This is Robert Olguin with your KFOX 14 news update. El Paso police are responding to a homicide at an apartment complex in West El Paso. Police blocked off the Carousel apartments at the 5200 block of Carousel Drive this afternoon. The call went out at 2 o'clock. Police and El Paso Fire responded to a car fire at the apartment complex this morning at about 4 o'clock. The owner of the car said they were receiving death threats. No further information was immediately available. El Paso County Commissioners have approved a $55 million revenue bond, allowing University Medical Center to open a new surgical hospital in East El Paso. The hospital will open along George Dieter and Physicians Drive, where Legent Health had operated a hospital before that one closed in January. According to UMC, that bond money will allow the hospital to purchase the hospital equipment and hire staff. This has been your KFOX 14 news update. I'm Robert Olguin.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
Not seeing any delays on I-10 westbound this afternoon, but I-10 eastbound is still slow. 12-minute delays from Vinton down to Wrestler with stop-and-go traffic. Global Reach southbound is slow approaching Montana with 7-minute delays. A stalled semi is blocking the right lane still on South Desert at Artcraft. Stay to the left as you get by that. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Montgomery. After lows in the 50s and 60s for your Wednesday morning, we'll see a hot one tomorrow afternoon. Breezy conditions, high around 97 degrees. And as high pressure starts to build into the area from the south and east, we'll see partly cloudy, breezy to windy conditions Thursday, high around 99 degrees. Partly cloudy, breezy for your Friday, even hotter with a high around 100 degrees. From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Montgomery.
This report is sponsored by Macy's Backstage. What will you find at Macy's Backstage? Here's a hint. Great Father's Day gifts for $20 and under, like classic polos, grill accessories, grooming sets, and more. Perfect for every dad. Find the latest trends and new arrivals at a Macy's Backstage store near you.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same, but is 95% cheaper? And you can get it online? Just go to 4hims.com/radio. Through Hims, you'll get a free medical consultation, discreet shipping if prescribed, a 100% online process, and trusted generic alternatives to the name brands at up to 95% off. That's right. Get generic for Viagra, the same active ingredient as brand name Viagra, but for 95% less. It's the same medication, still prescribed by a licensed medical provider, but with zero copay, no expensive appointments, and no awkward face-to-face conversations. To start your free online visit, you need to go to this exclusive address, 4hims.com/radio. That's 4hims.com/radio for your free online visit. FORHIMS.com/RADIO.
For the local issues and discussion you won't get anywhere else, turn to Talk El Paso. Weekdays at 4 right here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Brought to you in part by the El Paso Community Foundation. Sound off on what matters to you. Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m. And let's talk El Paso.
What will you find at Macy's Backstage? Here's a hint. Great Father's Day gifts for $20 and under, like classic polos, grill accessories, grooming sets, and more. Perfect for every dad. Find the latest trends and new arrivals at a Macy's Backstage store near you. This report is sponsored by Macy's Backstage.
Freedom of speech lives here.
To me, freedom of speech is being able to say anything you want.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM. News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Continuing on with our interview with, again, George Zavala, the individual who has, at the very least, the only one I'm aware of so far, filed the ethics complaint to specifically sitting City Rep Cassandra Hernandez regarding the gas card usage at that point in time, end of last month, as it was. I think he may have erroneously said March during that, but again, it was end of May. That day we talked about it on this program and talked about seeing his live stream. But getting back into that interview now, because of course, since he filed that, there's been more opening up of, including major uses of a P card, again, either procurement or purchasing, depending on who you ask and who describes it. So getting into that further part of the interview and conclusion here, enjoy. Joining us here again is George Zavala, community advocate and filer of the initial ethics complaint against sitting city rep Cassandra Hernandez based on the gas card usage. So thank you very much for sticking around with us here today.
Thank you, sir.
So, of course, as we were talking before the break, there has been, again, those developments, those things that you filed that complaint on the gas card usage of that roughly $7,000 of use. But since then, since you had that filing of it towards the end of last month, there has been further developments, including start of this month, article title from our news partners over at KFOX 14, City Internal Auditor to investigate city-issued purchasing cards on city council members, noting that for some of the people that are being involved here, including, of course, former city rep Claudio Rodriguez, noting that from April 2022 to December of 2022, there was $13,000 spent on this purchasing or procurement, or P card for short, and that, again, sitting rep Cassandra Hernandez has spent about $12,000 during that same period. Now, there are some further implications there, but, how do you feel that this investigation, I mean, among other things, it is going to be looking back into not even just last year, but into the last couple of years, 2020 and 2021 as well. But the implications that come from this about there being a potential misuse as is essentially being alleged, and basically the reason that is being put forth for why this further review and investigation is happening. How do you feel that affects the kind of core issues that you filed your ethics complaint on?
So to me, it just shows I guess the lack of empathy for its constituents. So what I mean by that, for example, it was reported that this Rodriguez spent $7,000 at Walmart on one day, and it was kind of particular about that day, is that there's several different purchases under $1,000. Like if they knew to go under that benchmark. But that just shows you, why would they do that? Why would they do separate account or purchases under a certain amount? So that just brings up red flags, right? But at the end of the day, again, like I'll keep repeating, we have to make sure that these city council members understand that they're accountable to us. Okay, yes, they can spend the money if it's within the guidelines and whatnot. I understand that. But when it goes to excess, and now, depending what the investigation comes through, it was a criminal charge, but they have to be accountable, Mr. Polk. They have to be. It goes from the mayor to the city manager. If they're going to be spending our money, it has to be, I consider it like an investment when I pay my taxes, right? Excuse me, when I pay my home taxes, I consider it an investment. So if I'm investing into the city, I want services back, good services in return. But if you're spending my money incorrectly, there has to be accountability. And at the end of the day, if there needs to be some type of discipline, so be it.
Yeah, you mentioned the potential for there being a criminal or at least investigation of that level, because currently it's been internal, and currently, again, your complaint is an ethics complaint, meaning that it's an basically internal city process. But with that possibility, with that specter of it, including some other article titles from our news partners at KFOX 14 from earlier this month, El Paso DA Bill Hicks speaks about future of case involving excessive gas card use, because we were still focused on that at this point. He said there was a consultation, but there was never a presentation at that point in time, and that there had not at that point in time been a case actually been filed, and that they would review it at this point. But with the step up of this, there has been some updates to what will be going on with a potential even criminal investigation, right?
And it was what kind of, again, sense of conspiracy or whatever, is kind of interesting that the DA was not provided the right information from the detective, and even DA Hicks stated that they were not presented all the facts. And that's why, at that point they made that advisory, what they call it, decision not to proceed in prosecution, because they were not provided all the evidence. Now, as of the time of this recording, they still have not. The DA has not gotten all the report or information from the police department, which is kind of peculiar. But number two, during the last week's meeting with the FOA FOCA, the Financial Oversight and Account Audit Commission or Committee, it was revealed that the city attorney said, in response to a question from Representative Kennedy, he asked why hasn't the videos been released regarding the videos that the auditor had. He had 10 videos, 4 of them showing a gray truck, or I'm sorry, 4 are showing potentially the spouse filling up a vehicle, either the truck or her van. And the city attorney responded saying that they were not released because there's a pending outside investigation. Now, we still, we don't know what that means, but the point is that there's something going in the background that we don't know, and hopefully it will come out. But to me, going back to what you said, Mr. Polk, regarding the investigation by the police, it was done, it was incomplete, and they still haven't completed it. So I'm just wondering what's going on there too.
Again, if you're just joining us, guest right now is George Zavala, community advocate, and again, filer of the ethics complaint, again, specifically sitting city rep Cassandra Hernandez over the situation and the, again, initially the misuse of, or alleged misuse of the gas cards. But of course, we're talking about this investigation now being a bit further reaching. So how do you feel that this affects your ethics filing itself here, considering that we're talking about a different scope here at this point, including even with the gas card, there's now been a further, again, from our news partners at KFOX 14, article titled Audit, Hernandez continues to excessively use gas card in 2023 and lent card to husband, noting that for this year already there has been at the very least January to April 30th of this year, about $1,500 of use of that card. Do you feel that's still within the scope and therefore applicable to your ethics complaint, or how do you know that'll work or not?
So when I had the opportunity to go in front of the committee or the commission, which might be, I want to say maybe late June or late July when that happens, I was advised that I could present further evidence or I guess amend my complaint, which I will be doing regarding the video evidence, which is clear. It shows her husband filling up at least on 2 occasions his truck. When I said on May the 9th, she's denied, or she said absolutely not. Nobody uses my card except for me. So that's going to be my emphasis on my complaint is, again, we're not talking about criminal, this is criminal or not. It's talking about ethical. So if she's not ethical, to me, she should not be serving on city council, because God knows what else is behind those doors, on city council. And corruption has always been told to me when I was young, growing up now, and during my process of voting, I've always heard that word, and I'm like, well, what is that? What does it really mean now that I've been listening to news and listening to you? I hear the stuff that comes up. Now this is clear evidence that there's something going on there, and there needs to be some kind of accountability.
Of course, there's been a lot of discussion around this, and a lot of, the mayor has said that there needs to be, further investigation, clear this up. There are further potentials. Information has been coming out over recent, days and weeks, even on this, so it may even change by the time we finish this interview. But for those, there's been some response, even just some discussion-wise, like you had kind of mentioned this idea of it being a drop in the bucket, that the city's budget overall is, nigh $1 billion. And that we're talking about thousands or tens of thousands of dollars in comparison, that, what's the real purpose? It doesn't make that big of a difference for spending. To those people who say those kind of things, what would you say, or how would you respond to that?
To me, it's going back again to my criminal justice days, back in the day when I was going to school, when I was smarter. There was this component called actus reus. And actus reus means the intent, the mental. So where were you at when you did whatever you did? And to me, the reason I say that is because when someone does something like what happened with Ms. Hernandez, that shows intent. In other words, she lied on May the 9th, saying that, no, my husband, indirectly she said, my husband never uses a card. And then there's video evidence showing that, yes, he did. So to me, it's say, okay, if she's willing to lie for that, what else has she done? What else has she not put into effort when she's making decisions regarding our money, our taxes? So that just shows the huge disconnect. And to me, yes, it's just a drop in the bucket, but that eventually leads to something. That's what I want to make sure people understand. This action will hopefully lead to something else where it'll put, again, what I said earlier, city council on notice and say, you know what, we're looking now. And if you do something wrong, we're going to hold you accountable. If it takes me to do more ethics complaints or anyone else, that's fine, because at the end of the day, we're just tired of paying high taxes and not having a good return.
Again, guest right now has been George Zavala, community advocate, and again, specifically filer of the currently and ongoing ethics complaint against sitting city rep Cassandra Hernandez over the gas card use. But of course, there has been more investigation going on since then. So, George, thank you very much for taking the time to speak with us about this today, about your perspective on it and where you feel it goes from here today.
I do want to say one thing. I've had some feedback regarding people reaching out to me and asking me why I did it. And so my response is what I've said, and what I've been told several times is that Ms. Hernandez has done a lot for the community regarding, this or that, which is, I can either, affirm that or not. But to my point is, that's fine if she does that. And I'm not arguing that point. My point is what she did. So being a nice person does not take away if you do something unethical or even criminal. So to me, I hope people understand that. And I'll also have people say this is political. I don't know what that means. It's not political, it's principle. And when we start making our elected officials accountable, then we can say, you know what, at least we're getting our money's worth. Because as for me, our taxes at our home has gone up almost $900 in the past 3 years. And when you're on limited income, that hurts. So hopefully with the action that I've done encourages others to do the same and just make their elected officials accountable.
Again, George Zavala, community advocate, thank you very much for joining us today to talk about all of these factors.
Thank you, sir.
So in response, we did reach out to City Rep Cassandra Hernandez, and this is what she sent us in response to that, saying specifically, amidst the recent scrutiny, I want to reiterate that my focus remains unwavering on my family, constituents, and the El Paso community as a whole. I have not violated any policies. Going on to say, any policies or laws, and stand by my principles with utmost integrity. I fully support any investigation that will improve the efficiency and betterment of our city. And then continues on to say that ultimately my commitment has and always will be to promote the well-being of the people I represent. I will respect the city's process for the Ethics Review Commission and look forward to sharing our perspective on the issue. Please send my well wishes to Mr. Zavala, end quote. And then we did end up reaching out also to former City Rep Claudia Lizette Rodriguez. And what she said to us is, the only comment I have is that as for the fuel card, there is no policy in place. And as far as P card, when I left, there were zero discrepancies with the District 6 account. So we're going to have to go ahead and take that next break right now, but we'll go ahead and open up those phone lines as well. And just as a further note, I will say that we have invited both of the current and former reps mentioned here onto the program at a later date in order to fully hear from them and more than just a statement or comment on their part. So TBD on that. So let's go ahead and take that break and again open up those phone lines. If you want to add your 2 cents, get on the line and talk about this or the other things going on here today. Of course, that number to do so is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. We'll be going to the top of the hour right now, so just get on that line, and if you're willing to stick there, we'll definitely get to you. So again, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Still slow on the I-10 eastbound in the Upper Valley from Vinton down to Wrestler, 12-minute delays. Also, Artcraft is slow eastbound from West Side Drive over to the 10 Desert Boulevard. A crash reported Fort Boulevard east of Copia at Russell, and slow traffic continues on Global Reach southbound approaching Montana with 7-minute delays. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Lowe's. Lowe's is partnering with HDTV for the second season of Build It Forward, giving back to the communities they serve. Inspired by Lowe's Hometowns program, hosts Tania Nayak and Shane Duffy are traveling to surprise community heroes with life-changing renovations. Watch Build It Forward all new Saturdays at 6, 5 Central.
A catalytic converter is an important component of your car's exhaust system. It's a total catastrophe if your catalytic converter is stolen. Park in well-lit areas. Install a protective device or etch on your VIN number. Learn more at lockitdowntx.com. Brought to you by the Insurance Council of Texas and the Motor Vehicle Crime Prevention Authority.
The new Raid Essentials Light Trap uses light to attract, then trap flying insects like fruit flies and mosquitoes, turning your home into restricted airspace. For insecticide-free protection that's people and pet-friendly, get new Raid Essentials Light Trap.
Hip, knee, or back pain? See if Arch Supports can help you at the Good Feet store. My mom and dad are the best. Ever since they called the early childhood program, I'm doing so much better, and mom and dad don't worry or stress as much as they used to. They seem a bazillion times happier, and all services are free.
Parenting isn't easy, so we signed up for the free early childhood program at the El Paso Center for Children. They taught us how to deal with COVID-19 stress and be better parents. Lots of other free services are available. Call 915-500-4105. That's 500-4105.
News on the hour and a half. Traffic and weather all day. News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook. Former President Trump is on his way to New Jersey after pleading not guilty to federal charges in Miami this afternoon. He faces 37 counts, including obstruction. The only arrest at the Miami federal courthouse was of a protester who charged Trump's motorcade. Karen Curtis has more.
Dominic Santana, a Cuban-American retiree dressed in a black and white striped prison jumpsuit, black shackles, and carrying a sign saying, "Lock him up," says he came to stand up to Trump's cult-like following.
This is a big joke. The circus. The judge that's appointed, he appointed her. What do you think is going to happen?
After the arraignment, and as Trump's motorcade left the federal courthouse, Santana could be seen running in front of the black SUV carrying the ex-president, who was immediately tackled and handcuffed. Otherwise, Miami police say they made no other arrests during the rally. Karen Curtis, Miami.
Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg is warning of pressure on the supply chain after the collapse of a section of I-95 in Pennsylvania. He visited Philadelphia to see the damage today. Buttigieg said there's no substitute for the highway getting back up to full working condition. 2 men are in custody in connection to a shooting in Denver last night that left 10 people injured.
There was a small group of individuals that chose to engage in some illegal behavior, and that went awry.
In a news conference today, the city's police chief, Ron Thomas, called the shooting an unnecessary incident of gun violence that happened while thousands of people were peacefully celebrating the Denver Nuggets winning the NBA championship. Amazon Web Services appear to be working again following a widespread outage Tuesday. The outage affected a number of internet services and websites that rely on AWS, including Delta Airlines, McDonald's, and Amazon Music. You're listening to the latest from NBC News Radio. A senator from Virginia is joining forces with a Tennessee senator to limit the federal government's use of drones made in China. Matt McClure reports.
Senator Mark Warner and Tennessee Senator Marsha Blackburn introduced a bill prohibiting the Federal Aviation Administration from buying or operating drones made in countries with authoritarian regimes. WRIC reports this includes countries like China, Russia, Cuba, North Korea, Iran, and Venezuela. Warner introduced a similar bill that would prohibit all federal government agencies from purchasing drones from nations like China and other adversaries back in February. So far, that bill has not received a vote. I'm Matt McClure.
Illinois will be the first state in the nation to outlaw book bans. Governor J.B. Pritzker signed the legislation yesterday in Chicago. The measure will allow the Illinois Secretary of State's office to deny grant funding to public and school libraries that ban books for partisan or doctrinal reasons. Actor Treat Williams is dead at the age of 71. More from Mark Mayfield.
Williams, who was the star of Everwood and Hair, died Monday afternoon in a motorcycle accident. His agent Barry McPherson confirmed the news with People magazine, saying that a car cut him off while Williams was trying to make a turn. He went on to say Williams was an actor's actor. He's been the heart of Hollywood since the late 1970s, and he was really proud of his performance this year. With over 120 credits to his name, Williams' career spanned decades across both TV and movies.
The jam-packed and largest two-weekend music festival in California is already preparing for next year's event. Coachella near Palm Springs is announcing advanced ticket sales for 2024. The dates for the Music and Art Festival are scheduled for the weekends of April 12th to April 14th, and the following weekend, April 19th to April 21st. Tickets go on sale this Friday. Brian Shook, NBC News Radio.
Now, your chance at a trip to our 2023 iHeartRadio Music Festival. Text the nationwide keyword Vegas to 200-200. You'll get a confirmation text and info. Standard data and message rates apply in this nationwide contest. That's Vegas to 200-200.
This September, our iHeartRadio Music Festival is coming back to Las Vegas.
September 22nd and 23rd at T-Mobile Arena.
Streaming live only on Hulu. Tickets go on sale Friday, June 16th at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. But starting tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern, Capital One cardholders can score tickets and other awesome experiences before anyone else for 48 hours only or while pre-sale tickets last.
Visit iHeartRadio.com/Capital One for more pre-sale details.
What's in your wallet?
This report is sponsored by Lowe's. Lowe's is partnering with HDTV for the second season of Build It Forward, giving back to the communities they serve. Inspired by Lowe's Hometowns program, hosts Tania Nayaka and Shane Duffy are traveling to surprise community heroes with life-changing renovations. Watch Build It Forward all new Saturdays at 6, 5 Central.
Hi, I'm Burt Ward, Robin from TV's Batman, inviting you to feed your dog natural, non-GMO, Gentle Giants dog and puppy food. Dogs eating Gentle Giants and following our special feeding and care program are living as long as 27 healthy, active years with a wonderful quality of life. Holy wow, 27 years! Think of all the extra years you could enjoy with your dog at Target, H-E-B, and stores near you. Try Gentle Giants cat and kitten food, too.
Paid for by government.com. Can you believe it? A huge hoard of 2018 American Eagle silver dollar coins were confiscated when the FBI busted an international fraud ring that stretched from South Dakota to Norway. It sounds like a Hollywood movie, but it's not. These 99.9% pure silver 2018 Silver Eagles, recovered from U.S. mint-sealed boxes concealed in a garage in Norway, are now available and can be yours. Your guaranteed mint condition American Eagle silver dollars seized from the Norway hoard. Quantities are extremely limited. To learn more, call 1-800-973-9717. Plus, you'll receive a free bonus package, a $25 value, free with every order. Don't let this incredible opportunity slip away. Call 1-800-973-9717 now to secure your American Silver Eagles from the seized Norway hoard before they're gone. That's 1-800-973-9717.
Only iHeartRadio gives you access to all of your favorite radio stations.
Rover's Morning Glory.
It's The Woody Show.
It's Elliot in the Morning.
All of the once-in-a-lifetime events.
iHeartRadio Music Festival.
All of the best free curated playlists.
It's everything that rocks.
All of the great podcasts for every interest.
This is Freddie Prinze Jr. from the Wrestling with Freddie podcast.
All of the mind-blowing contests.
$20,000.
Awesome. All of your favorite superstars.
This is Dave Grohl from the Foo Fighters.
Best of all, it doesn't cost a thing. Download the absolutely free iHeartRadio app now.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of stuff going on today. And again, thanks to our guest from the last hour, George Zavala, a community advocate, I guess, in this role, best description for him, at least what he's going with anyway, on that and on the ethics complaint he had filed, but also the updates to that whole situation. And again, still have made the invitation, will be so TBD when it comes to having on the current or former city reps, the ones mentioned there, though it was brought up a little bit earlier that there is also other reporting going on. I'm going to reference KVIA is reporting here a couple of times. Their article titled City Manager's Office Spent More than $100,000 in taxpayer money on city issue P card since 2022. So that's absolutely another aspect of this. But also do want to make one mention of a notable passage here that Cormac McCarthy, a former El Pasoan, died, I believe, in his home in Santa Fe. One note, and I mean, of course, known for many such books and movies, I think that The Road should be required reading for anyone entering adolescence or preparing to enter into adulthood. But the KVI reporting on this caught my eye as well, saying McCarthy called many places home, including El Paso and northern New Mexico. He was said to have been inspired to write the landscape of the dystopian world of The Road after looking out over El Paso. I would love to know the source inside on that one, because I'm going to have some slightly different implications about my like of the book the road in the future if that truly is the case. Anyway, a lot of other stuff going on. And of course, Talk El Paso, brought to in part by Sunland Park, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, 950 Crockett Street. It is the season to get major savings, including thousands of dollars back in cash allowances or percentages off of MSRP, including their whole new pre-ordering of new vehicles and their used selection. So Sunland Park, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, right across I-10 from Sunland Park Mall. And a lot of other commentary coming in, those dropping those likes and reacts that we certainly do appreciate, including Rick Reyes, Amber Banda, James Ratcliffe, Matt Olson, James Holmes, Ida Beza Gardner, Sean Gardner, Flaco Jimenez, Robbie Flores, and Monica Cervantes, including, of course, response to some of the other things going on. James Ratcliffe saying, my question is how these criminals in Commissioner's Court outright gave UMC $55 million. Again, it's revenue bonds, meaning that it's, some of the filing information say there will be no impact to taxpayer, and that was, I guess, the substantive comment that then County Judge Ricardo Samaniego made, saying that even if they refinance it, it has to stick that way. So they can't kind of finance the way out of that, or they'll have to take it to the voters, so to speak. So the idea is that the performance of the hospital, which in this case is already built, just needs to be filled back out and gotten back up running, basically, that will be revenues coming from that will support the bond. So I guess in this case, it will be caveat bill bond purchaser. I don't know how to translate that into Latin, but you get the idea. But a lot of the commentary, including response to the recent interview, including Rick Reyes asking, how long has she been doing this since she was elected? What about others from the past 50 so years? They should do it with no more gasoline for anyone, or the city auditor is slacking off big time. I think there's some also other anger coming out about that if I'm reading your ampersands, at signs, dollar signs, and asterisks the correct way. So that's certainly a part of it. But again, a lot of reporting going on these situations, and we'll see. Again, one of the ones that I mentioned from our news partners at KFOX 14 talking about, response from the district attorney, Bill Hicks, for El Paso, on if it has, basically what he said at that point in time is that no case has been filed as of yet, so there's nothing for him to review. They don't do the investigation, they prosecute the case. Go back to your Law and Order days, and that'll make more sense for you if you ever had that fixation that I sometimes find myself in. Anyway, those are some of the things going on. Some of the other commentary, including Marky Mandingo saying, both good afternoon, but that saying that in that hospital situation that they can't compete against Providence or other private companies, so they do their best to ensure we have to use them. I mean, in this case, it was that this was a hospital that ceased operations, and they're buying up both the facility and the equipment within it. And then Ron Como chiming over on the Facebook as well, saying, fire them all. So there's some commentary going on that. Don't know exactly when the gas cards started. James Ratcliffe saying, I think they were issued in 2020 or 2021. I will absolutely say that is where the investigation is spanning to, including with the internal auditor now looking closer at that. So those are definitely the span of what we're going to be looking at. But yeah, the actual issuance of them, that's a decent other question, I will say. And James Ratcliffe asking, so if UMC fails to pay off the bond, who pays for it? Well, it would probably come back on us, but again, essentially my takeaway from what the county judge says is that they have to refinance it because of inability, it doesn't work out, that they're going to have to go to the voters on that particular part. So I'm sure there's an avenue of which public money would be possibly involved, but in any case, let's go ahead and get into those phone lines now. Of course, we got those open and available. That number to do so is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. If we had lost anyone because of any issues with our board, just stay on the line with us and we'll get to you as soon as we can. And yeah, Matt Olson, John Q. Taxpayer, and Trito Sack saying elected officials misappropriating funds should be grounds for arrest and a jail cell. In general, yes, I'll agree with you. Anyone using public funds for private purpose should definitely have quite a lot of scrutiny on them, if not further consequences, which is why I will fully agree with the idea of having an investigation into this. But the level of what it's at is another question. But let's get to those phone lines now. We do have Raul in the Northeast on the line with us here right now. Raul, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Andrew. Well, as I mentioned the other day, I took celebrated trunk indictments with a trip to Santa Fe.
Uh-huh.
And on the way back, we stopped in Albuquerque to have supper, and it got me to thinking about Albuquerque. Now, I've never really spent any time there. I've just stopped on the way back, as I said before. But, my ex-wife at one time considered leaving El Paso to teach elsewhere. She had an offer from the University of Baltimore, Maryland, School of Nursing there, and I didn't want to move there. I hate the cold weather, and she also had a shot in San Francisco. So we went over there to San Francisco, but it's super expensive to live there.
Sure.
And I told her, you know what? If I'm going to move anywhere, it's not going to be the South. It's not going to be anywhere it's cold. If you wanted somewhere kind of nearby, Albuquerque, I would consider Albuquerque because it's got a lot of things that El Paso does. It's got a mountain in the middle of town. It's got the Rio Grande Valley. It's got a Hispanic culture. It's much cooler there on the eastern slope of the mountain in town. You can go skiing. So it's really pretty. And then you got Santa Fe, an hour north from there, and you got the beautiful Santa Fe and the Santa Cristo Mountains and everything. So I did a little research on the difference between the two places. Now, El Paso has a population of 678,000. Albuquerque is about 100,000 smaller with 563,000 people. But in terms of their GDP, El Paso's GDP is $31 billion, and Albuquerque's is $41 billion. That's 25% more. So they're getting a lot more punch out of their people than we are over here in El Paso. Their per capita income is $25,000. Our per capita income is $25,000, and theirs is $33,000. So their per capita income is almost 24% higher than is ours. Their unemployment rate is 2.7% to our 3.9. Now, again, those numbers are low, and they're historic lows, as a matter of fact, due to the work that Biden has done. And so Albuquerque's unemployment rate is 44% less than ours. I know, again, small numbers, but 2.7 versus 3.9 is 44%. So that's significantly more. Their poverty rate is 16% to our 18%. So we're not a whole lot poorer than they are. Now, this one was interesting. In terms of the percentage of college graduates, 17% of El Paso's population are college graduates, with a bachelor's or higher. Albuquerque's 37%. They got two more times college graduates than we do here in El Paso. Now, the one bad thing that I've heard about Albuquerque is the crime rate. So over there on a per thousand basis, now our crime rate violent crime is 22 for El Paso, and property crime is 30. And then Albuquerque is 51 for violent crime, twice as much as we hear in El Paso. And property crime, 85. That's a whole lot more. So I guess that is true about that. Now why that has happened, heck if I know. But as far as the political parties in power at the Capitol, well, as you know, in Texas, it's a Republican Party. In New Mexico, it's the Democratic Party. And the city council there in Albuquerque, it's almost 50-50. 4 of their members are Republicans and 5 are Democrats. But it must mean that they have partisan elections, which we should be having here too. I want to know what you are. I don't want Dinos and rhinos. Let's come up front and tell us who you are and what party you vote for. Be proud. Don't be ashamed of it. Now their governor is something else. This lady is her name is Michelle Lujan Grissom, and she's 13 generations deep there in that part in Santa Fe, in New Mexico area. And this governor has been spending their taxes that they're getting, their pot taxes, they're using their pot taxes to send their kids to college, to pay their kids college education. Now that's really, really smart. Unlike here, where the governor's trying to eviscerate, the Republicans and the governor's trying to eviscerate public education with vouchers. And their legislature over there is also Democratic. They have 45 Democrats versus 25 Republicans in the House, so they almost twice as much Dems as there are Republicans. And in their Senate, they got 27 Democrats to 15 Republicans in the Senate. So again, it's clearly a Democratic legislature, and it seems like they're doing just a whole lot better job for their people than our people are over here, the rhinos and the dinos over here. Now, about Trump indictment, what a day today! I was enjoying watching the perp drive and the perp walk to the courthouse. How's that for winning, huh? Tired of that kind of winning? And while people accuse me of having Trump derangement syndrome, I think those people have what I call Trump mania. And they've been Trump with Trumpery and Trumpism. And so much so, like this lady, this Carrie Lake woman, the failed Republican governor candidate in Arizona. And the other day, she was threatening Attorney General Merrick Garland the President of the United States and Special Counsel Jack Smith, as well as the media, for coming after Trump. And this is what she said. If you want to get to President Trump, you're going to have to go through me, and you're going to have to go through 75 million Americans just like me. And I'm going to tell you, most of us are card-carrying members of the NRA. That's not a threat. That's a public service announcement. Now, that's stoking violence.
And I'm going to be against anyone saying that, oh, for politics, I'm going to resort to violence, because that's literally not how this works. And yeah, people, particularly in powerful positions, elected or not in that case, do need to be careful with what they say, because just because you're saying, oh, no, it would be great if this person, were unalived, like that has been found culpable in a variety of ways. But I mean, as much as, again, getting into Friday territory there on the local aspect of it, I will say, particularly from the actual designated market area, broadcast side of it, the differences between El Paso and Albuquerque are interesting. I mean, among just general population, sure, Albuquerque proper is smaller. There is the fact that the metro area, that Albuquerque, according to, who did I have it with here right now? Just the basic Google search, pegs at about 915,000 people, whereas El Paso is about 868. So comparable enough. But when it comes to like markets, TV, broadcast, what have you, markets, which I've of course been immersed in, they're about we're like the high 90s in terms of New York City is number 1 and like LA is number 2, to put it in perspective. So we're in the top 100 here in El Paso because, among other things, we don't get to count Juarez because, of course, electromagnetic signals stop at the border immediately, right? Now, that's not the case, but it's another country, so it doesn't get counted in the standard ratings. But Albuquerque, its designated market area is basically all of New Mexico. So it's like in the 50s or in the high 40s, give or take, depending on the particular rating or re-rating system going on. But so if El Paso were a part of New Mexico, it would be the largest city limits area in New Mexico, even if it's not the biggest metro area. So, I mean, there's a lot of different comparisons, and I will say, just from the news coverage, conversations we'd had over the years, is that they're a lot more crime-focused because there's that going on. So, I'm not saying that I would totally switch places, but in terms of brain drain, you mentioned there the graduate percentage of college. There definitely has been a lot of people leaving this area and going. Most of the people I know that have left town have ended up in Albuquerque, particularly those with advanced degrees. So, there is something to be said for that as an issue or a problem or et cetera, what have you here. But I'm sure, again, our national host and other news coverage is doing a fine job of analyzing the national situations. But in the meantime, we're going to keep focusing on the local, or at the very least, I guess, regional aspect of it here. So we're going to go ahead and take that next break now. So appreciate the point in the call for the local parts of it. Anyway, if you want to get on that line, don't forget that number to do so is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Delays finally have disappeared in the Upper Valley on the I-10 east and westbound, but now Desert Boulevard. North Desert before Red, a stalled vehicle is blocking the right lane, and there's a minor backup. South Desert Boulevard, after Artcraft, a stalled vehicle is blocking the right turn lane. An earlier crash, Ford Boulevard at Russell, and a disabled vehicle blocking the right shoulder, 54 Patriot southbound at Pershing. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Lowe's. Lowe's is partnering with HDTV for the second season of Build It Forward, giving back to the community they serve. Inspired by Lowe's Hometowns program, hosts Tania Nayaka and Shane Duffy are traveling to surprise community heroes with life-changing renovations. Watch Build It Forward all new Saturdays at 6, 5 Central.
Okay, so we have the car payment, the rent, utilities,
and the repair bill.
What should we do?
I know. I'm going to CashNetUSA.com. I can apply in minutes, get an instant decision, and if approved, we could have the money in our account as soon as the same business day.
When you need money fast, be the hero. Go to CashNetUSA.com to apply for the money you need now. The exact timing as to when your loan funds will be available will be determined by your banking institution.
El Paso, Ivan Ochoa, General Manager of Sun Park, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Thank you again, El Paso, for making us #1 year to date in new car sales. As a gesture of gratitude, we're offering huge savings on all new and certified pre-owned vehicles. More for your trade with no payments for 90 days.
Thank you, boss man. This week at Stellar Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Get $10,000 off MSRP on remaining 2022 Grand Wagoneer SUVs. Get $6,000 off MSRP on 2023 Jeep Gladiator trucks. Get $1,000 off MSRP on 2023 Jeep Wrangler Sport and Sahara. Plus super low 2.8% APR for 72 months on 2023 Ram 1500 Laramie and Lone Star trucks. Worried about your trade or credit? Don't sweat it. Our aggressive lenders will push to approve your credit, even if your credit is less than perfect. It's the season of huge savings at Stellar Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, and I-10 at Stellar Park Drive, or online at StellarParkDodge.com. Estamos en tu esquina, El Paso. El Paso strong. Includes factory rebate, discount plus GTNL. 2.9% APR is 15.50 per thousand finance. Select vehicles with approved credit. Offers not combined.
A catalytic converter is an important component of your car's exhaust system. They can cost several $1,000s to replace. Cats can be removed in under a minute and have a high scrap value. Keep your vehicle safe from cat burglars. Park in well-lit areas. Install a protective device. Have your VIN number etched onto your catalytic converter. It's a total catastrophe. If your catalytic converter is stolen, lock it down. Learn more at lockitdowntx.com. Brought to you by the Insurance Council of Texas and the Motor Vehicle Crime Prevention Authority.
Cashback is not available on gas in New Jersey and Wisconsin. Hey, good morning. You're heading to the airport, right?
Yep, thanks for checking. I like the car. How long have you been a rideshare driver?
About 3 years now, but I really enjoy it.
Isn't it hard to make money these days with the price of gas being so high?
Not for me. I use Upside, the free app that gives you cash back for every gallon of gas you buy.
Wait a minute. Are you saying you actually get real money back when you get gas with the Upside app?
Yep, I get real cash back every time I get gas.
Does that actually add up to anything?
I'll make around $200 to $300.
Wow, that's serious extra cash. I'm downloading the Upside app now.
Download the free Upside app now to earn real cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code HOT for an extra 25 cents a gallon bonus on your first tank. You can cash out anytime right to your bank account, PayPal, or a gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code HOT for a 25 cents a gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code HOT.
If you're hiring, it can feel like you're trying to find a needle in a haystack. You can hope the right person comes along, or you can just use ZipRecruiter. And now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. In fact, ZipRecruiter has helped a lot of business owners find their needle in a haystack, like Marco, president of operations at Telly Tires and Auto Centers. Because Telly Tires has grown a lot in the last few years, Marco needed to hire everyone from a receptionist to a store manager to a head mechanic.
ZipRecruiter helps me find all the right people, even the most difficult jobs to fill. ZipRecruiter helps me keep my business running.
Take it from Marco and millions of other businesses who've used ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter can help you find the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free. At ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/FREE. ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, and joining us over on the various social media pages, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, either under Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk. Got those comments, including one that's giving me some fits right now. But of course, we have those phone lines open as well. May or may not be having an issue with one of them, but in any case, call in. The number to do so is 915-544-5876-544-KTSM. Got them available. Again, may be having an issue, so if you're getting cut off, I'm not hanging up on anyone. Let's just put it that way. So again, 915-544-5876-544-KTSM. And I guess the general category is of questions I didn't realize I was asking and didn't particularly intend to. Sean Gardner with an idea of, well, if we're not getting the ratings for them, no, I just got to read it. We could build a massive grounded screen along the border, extending a couple thousand feet in the air, and that would drop a majority of electromagnetic radiation crossing the border to prevent them from prevent them from hearing the broadcast. let's make it perfectly clear here. I have no issue with people outside of the DMA hearing the broadcast. I mean, sometimes I've heard that you can get it clear up to Albuquerque 690 on a good clear night. But my issue is with the fact that due to arbitrary rules, the ratings don't come in with it. I mean, if any of the stations in El Paso, the designated market area in El Paso, got to count Juarez on its own, El Paso would immediately rocket to top 50, if not a whole lot more. Anyway, think, okay, ranking, what does that matter? There's, an aspect of prestige, but also of like funding that comes into it, because national advertisers look for bigger ones. Sean Gardner saying he's joking, but again, you got to admit, someone saying that, that's an interesting idea. How do we accomplish that? It's like, okay, no, I did not realize that that's the one I was asking here. So again, that's why sometimes I don't know what we're going to get in the calls and the comments sometimes here. So again, that a number to call if you want to add your 2 cents, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. And to some saying that even if people were chiming in from other places, we are of course online these days, so anyone around the world can tune in. So sorry about that. Anyway, no, Troy Gardner saying I heard 690 in Arizona when driving at night. Again, it sounds entirely possible. But let's go back to those phone lines now. Again, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We do have Kevin on the east side here with us right now. Kevin, thanks for joining us.
Hey, good afternoon, Andrew. This may sound like a very simplistic question, but I tell you, I'm ignorant on this stuff, and I need some education here.
It's okay.
I don't understand why it is that our regular city representatives, not the ones that are in trouble now for the gas cards, but our regular city representatives on a given day, where do they go? That they have to have so much of an allowance for gasoline and all this. When I was working, I drove my car to where I worked, and that was it. And I had to go somewhere else. Even on work business, I didn't get reimbursed for that stuff. And I just don't understand. They represent each one represents a certain district.
Sure.
And so where are they going within? Is their district so large that they have to spend a lot of money on gas? I don't get it. Could you enlighten me on that?
So part of the question that is coming up in this whole review and aspects of it is, okay, what are the policies? And that's one that has been a little less. El Paso Matters has done some recent reporting on this out of over the weekend there. City Reps Hernandez, Rodriguez drum up largest fuel card bills, spending policies, oversight long lacking. So the actual policy part of that is kind of at question here, that it may have been created and not really been an issue or much of a focus on, because again, in the scope of the overall city budget, we're talking about peanuts, and yet the implications from it are much bigger than any dollar amount. Even if one of the comments that came up earlier was, are we spending more on the investigation than it was these expenditures? Honestly, I haven't seen the figures on that, and I see it feasible of getting there. Maybe not the 6 figures that is being implicated for the spending on particularly the P cards, either purchasing or procurement done by staff under the city manager side of government. But I will say this overall, that making this clear, transparency is a beautiful thing and one that is kind of lacking here. So to my understanding, the way that these are supposed to be used is to be reimbursed for, usage mileage done when on city business. The fact that they've been used out of town on consecutive days. There's questions that are rife for investigation and to be asked here. I have no doubt in my mind on this. Frankly, I think accountability would have forestalled a lot of this. Heck, just I can go with the personal example of what we use here at the station. We have station vehicles, and we have gas cards that are used to fill those up. These are not ones that are therefore, I can't use it for my personal vehicle. Let's put it that way. And so what happens is when I go to fill it up, I have to put in my personal identification number, identifying who's doing the fill up, and then I have to put in the mileage of that vehicle. So there is a tracking aspect of it here. I can't say definitively, but I'm decently suspicious, and feel like there's reason to go along with the suspicion that kind of accountability does not exist at this case, because there's, again, accountability, it's a two-way street. It both makes sure people aren't doing wrong things, but then also can help prove that you weren't doing something wrong. Like every time I have filled up one of our station vehicles and, we're going out to remotes or the other type of things, I have the ability to say, okay, it filled up at this time at this purpose, and it was so many miles from the last fill up for this vehicle. and therefore, the accountability in a way also protects me, which I personally appreciate. From if there were to be anything, I've worked in places previously where it was just just go fill up, and there had to be investigations on it, and you could argue that it was set up that way. So it's kind of to your core question, why is it this way? Honestly, I think it just basically has been in place, and there were no real questions being raised about it until now. So therefore, it's kind of chickens coming home to roost, I guess you could argue, both in terms of if someone was, I could see an attitude coming across of, oh, well, it's fine, it's just always worked that way, without anyone actually saying but should it work that way? As opposed to also what our best practice is, and it just kind of continuing on until, a bump in the road gets hit, so to speak.
Okay. What I'm looking for with these people that, have this privilege of having their gas paid for by us, the taxpayers, what I'm looking for is, okay, where do you have to go outside of your district, and when, and has this been approved? Whoever's going to approve it, whether it's going to be the city manager, or it's going to be the mayor, it's going to be whoever, not just jump in your car and I think I'll go to Dallas for some reason. And I don't understand why these people represent a small area in this city for each of their districts, and why they have to be going out all the time, racking up all this gas money, when we have computers, we have telephones, all this stuff. I think a lot of it must be unnecessary. It's either unnecessary or people are equivocating about exactly where they're going or what they're doing. I just don't get it, and I like to have it fully investigated and fully explained, because it's just doesn't seem right to me.
I'm finding myself very in favor of a full and also publicly released investigation, because there's being we have found no wrongdoing. Like, if that were to be an answer, even if it was 100% legitimate and okay, the policies weren't in place to say no to this, I'm going to be incredibly dissatisfied. I know a lot of others are. I want to see into the data, see the usage, and see what might need to be changed. Again, El Paso Matter is doing a lot of reporting on this and delving into the data from, their recent article that I mentioned. They mentioned that in 2022, that former city rep Claudia Lizette Rodriguez filled up in Van Horn twice in 2022, once in Fort Stockton in 2021, and a holiday fill up in Carlsbad. So it certainly has been being used outside of the area. And they also do have some of the other numbers coming from some of the other city reps, referencing city rep Alessandro Anello, city rep Isabel Salcido, among other things. So there's a lot of data to go into here. So investigate this fully, and let's get some answers. I would fully agree with you there.
Roger that. Well, thank you very much, Andrew. That's all I got. I'll get off my soapbox.
Sure thing. Well, thanks for the point in the call. Do appreciate it.
Okay.
And with that, let's go ahead and take that next break right now. So, still trying to take those calls here for anyone that's gotten stuck on the line or wasn't able to be answered. We're doing our level best, but do have all the lines open and available now. That number to call is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, everyone. This is Robert Olguin with your KFOX 14 news update. El Paso police are responding to a homicide at an apartment complex in West El Paso. Police blocked off the Carousel apartments at the 5200 block of Carousel Drive this afternoon. The call went out at 2 o'clock. Police and El Paso Fire responded to a car fire at the apartment complex this morning at about 4 o'clock. The owner of the car said they were receiving death threats. No further information was immediately available. El Paso County Commissioners have approved a $55 million revenue bond, allowing University Medical Center to open a new surgical hospital in East El Paso. The hospital will open along George Dieter and Physicians Drive, where Legent Health had operated a hospital before that one closed in January. According to UMC, that bond money will allow the hospital to purchase the hospital equipment and hire staff. This has been your KFOX 14 news update. I'm Robert Olguin.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
On North Desert Boulevard before red, a stalled vehicle is blocking the right lane with a minor backup. South Desert Boulevard after Artcraft, another stalled vehicle blocking the right turn-only lane. Southbound on the loop from Montana down to I-10, it's a 5-minute delay. And you got some slowing due to a semi blocking the right shoulder, I-10 westbound at Airway. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Montgomery. After lows in the 50s and 60s for your Wednesday morning, we'll see a hot one tomorrow afternoon. Breezy conditions, high around 97 degrees. And as high pressure starts to build into the area from the south and east, we'll see partly cloudy, breezy to windy conditions Thursday, high around 99 degrees. Partly cloudy, breezy for your Friday, even hotter with a high around 100 degrees. From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Montgomery.
This report is sponsored by Lowe's. Lowe's is partnering with HDTV for the second season of Build It Forward, giving back to the communities they serve. Inspired by Lowe's Hometowns program, hosts Tania Nayaka and Shane Duffy are traveling to surprise community heroes with life-changing renovations. Watch Build It Forward all new Saturdays at 6, 5 Central.
Cashback is not available on gas in New Jersey and Wisconsin. Hey, good morning. You're heading to the airport, right?
Yep, thanks for checking. I like the car. How long have you been a rideshare driver?
About 3 years now. I really enjoy it.
Isn't it hard to make money these days with the price of gas being so high?
Not for me. I use Upside, the free app that gives you cash back for every gallon of gas you buy.
Wait a minute. Are you saying you actually get real money back when you get gas with the Upside app?
Yep, I get real cash back every time I get gas.
Does that actually add up to anything?
I'll make around $200 to $300.
Wow, that's serious extra cash. I'm downloading the Upside app now.
Download the free Upside app now to earn real cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code HOT for an extra 25 cents a gallon bonus on your first tank. You can cash out anytime right to your bank account, PayPal, or a gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code HOT for a 25 cents a gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code HOT.
Lowe's is partnering with HDTV for the second season of Build It Forward, giving back to the communities they serve. Inspired by Lowe's Hometowns program, hosts Tania Nayaka and Shane Duffy are traveling to surprise community heroes with life-changing renovations. Watch Build It Forward all new Saturdays at 6, 5 Central. This report is sponsored by Lowe's.
Okay, forest animals, kids are coming to the forest, and it's up to us to make their visit a good one. Sparrow, have you practiced the most popular bird songs for the year?
Of course.
Catchy. I like it. River, how's the temperature?
It's a refreshing 52 degrees, man.
I love it. Turtle.
He's not here yet, man.
He's late every morning. Okay. Squirrel.
The forest has been preparing just for you. To learn more about cool things to do in the forest, visit discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so. Be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, either under Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk. A lot of conversation going on about the, of course, city investigation, among other things, but also about New Mexico, to which, searching up quickly, it doesn't look like there are partisan elections in the city of Albuquerque when it comes to city council, but I also got to say, El Paso is weird in a bunch of ways, but one of the things that consistently happens here is saying that it's a nonpartisan election, therefore there can be no partisans involved in it, and that's not really the case anywhere else, including like Albuquerque, because I mean they don't have it. There's not an R or a D or whatever letter by anyone's name on that one. But the way it works most other places I've lived, worked, talked to people from, etc., is that, sure, you may not be able to run as a particular party, but that does not mean that that party's infrastructure cannot work for you. We kind of got a smacking of it, a little bit of it when we were seeing, some of those mailers and other things that were coming out for the District 6 EPISD race, when there was, specifically mentions about the partisan nature of different candidates, their position, etc. Again, that doesn't mean that they're like violating what they are in a nonpartisan race, but it means that that machinery is being used for it. And that's kind of how it works just about everywhere else. I got to say that. Anyway, other parts of it being mentioned, including, who do we have here? KF Green saying, I didn't catch everything Raul was saying, but he was talking about New Mexico. There are a few things he may not want to admit about New Mexico. For one, we rank number 1 with drug abuse. No, that's not something to brag about. Not. And ranks number 50 in education. These two things are nothing to brag about. I mean, there's been a reason that they've been focusing on the education systems, the funding for it. And I will say the one thing that came to mind about saying using the pot money for it, kind of more, though, at least previously, with only the first year of revenues just coming down for New Mexico, they've mostly been using the energy production funding for it, because I mean, sure, you got the Permian Basin in Texas, then you got, well, essentially the New Mexico side of it right near there, because it's of course near the, what do you call it, the armpit, probably the crook of the elbow, probably a more generous way to put it, in Texas, before you end up going to the stretch that heads out this way. But other commentary going on, like Mondo Moncano was saying, I'm saying, Cassandra, pay for the gasoline and let's move on. That may or may not be possible at this point. One of the questions that was brought up earlier actually about when it started, and yeah, there have not been a lot of concrete answers, but El Paso Matters in their, again, recent article, that, well, they note that the city declined to answer El Paso's Matters questions about the fuel card program due to the investigation, essentially. Quoting a city spokesperson, La Cruz Acosta, in an email response, but that they spoke with former city manager Joyce Wilson, of course, the first city manager, who says that it's not totally clear that, well, what she said to them is that the fuel card program likely started in 2008 in order to replace, it used to be the way she described it to El Paso Matters, is that it was a way to better manage smaller cost expenditures, that elected officials previously used travel and mileage logs for a mileage allowance, which Wilson said was not efficient and required a lot of paperwork. And so they lay out some of the emotions and different ways it's moved throughout the years. And they do note that the contract with the current vendor, Alon Brands Inc., was approved by City Council in May 2019, so that users would have 24/7 access to gas stations. So that's part of what's going on. Also, a note coming in, Sean Gardner saying that a semi-truck broken down on eastbound side of Trans Mountain near the top, traffic down to 1 lane. So keep aware of that if you're out on the roads. But we've got time for at least one last call here. We've got one more brave caller attempting to brave our system, which seems to be having issues today. So just as a general note, if you call in the middle of the segment, you might get popped up live. So here we go. You're live with Talk El Paso. Who's this?
Hello there. This is Eric.
Hey there, Eric. What's on your mind?
Before getting to local news, today's a historic day. Trump being arrested for the second time, and I just want to encourage yourself and everyone listening that they really should read the 49-page indictment, because it details all the evidence of Trump's criminality, and everyone on this station is going to be, and right-wing media in general is lying to their listeners about the indictment. And I agree with Raul that our elections really should be partisan. You should say like what party you identify with, because that really is a good indicator of what your values are and what sources of information you deem credible. Like if someone still identifies as a Republican in today's day, you know that they consume bad faith information sources and have all of these really bad values from bad faith information sources that have deceived and manipulated them into thinking these values are virtuous or Christian even. Like, if today's Republican Party, it really is pretty bad. Like all the conservatives with principles, they're being forced out of it, basically, and demonized by the MAGA Republicans who have taken over it. And it really does say a lot about you if you're still calling yourself a Republican, now that Trump's in charge of it. And if you're a Republican, that means you're opposed to solving the issues of everyday working class people, or helping make their lives better, by using the government. It really is a psychopathic ideology when you look at the policy positions that they advocate for, and they're not problem solvers. They're just they make poorly educated assumptions to confirm their conservative ideology, and this bad faith, intellectual dishonesty
Okay, I get it. You don't like Republicans, and you feel that there is no legitimate reason for anyone to be a Republican in the state. Is that a fair summary of what you're saying there?
I'm saying if you care about the well-being of El Pasoans, then there's tremendous amount of value in knowing if a person is a Republican or not, because that's going to taint their policy analysis. It prevents them from doing objective policy analysis, looking at the data, and thinking of solutions to problems that affect, everyday El Pasoans. Like if we look at, for example, all of your commenters and even when you're communicating yourself about UMC, insinuating that, it could go bad, taxpayers may be on the line for it, we should kind of blindly make all of these assumptions and oppose this.
Again, I would dare you to quote me on anything I said in opposition to it. I relayed what the actions have been today. If you were to quote yourself a little bit earlier, because don't think I didn't notice that go by. Got to find it here. Here we go. Clean your ears and stop hearing whatever you want to hear. I would firmly encourage you to apply that kind of logic to yourself here. But did you want to move on to the local aspect over here? Did you want to talk about UMC then?
Oh, yeah. I mean, why not? I've mentioned in the past how you lobbied against the UMC bond by spreading lies that it wouldn't save the lives of El Paso's poor and El Pasoans in general, because it does service people. UMC does service people who don't have health insurance and who are too poor to afford health care, and expanding their life-saving treatment options and functionality is going to provide life-saving treatment to El Paso's children and El Paso's poor. And so to lobby against that UMC bond, which you were doing back when that was a thing.
Just to make clear the record here, we had on both the opponents of it, Libre Initiative and their petition drive, and we also had on UMC and the El Paso County Hospital District themselves here as we try to analyze the issues surrounding whenever we have big things like this. Again, I didn't agree with you, and therefore I can see how you would think that I'm, again, you pick a adjective here, a kind of awful person. But the major part I remember being opposed to you on here was saying that anyone opposing this wants people to die. Can you understand how that might seem ever so slightly alarmist?
It's an objective fact that UMC bond would have saved El Pasoans' children lives, tangible lives of El Paso's poor and the poor children. That's an objective fact. That bond would have saved those lives. So to spread lies that it wouldn't, to misinform your listeners so that they oppose that bond, that is you actively lobbying for the deaths of El Paso's children and the El Paso's poor.
I didn't lobby for the bond, therefore I want people to die. Okay, just making sure we're clear on the standard here. But I believe you've also brought up that standard with any bonds, right? Including school bonds. I believe you said that when we were talking about the Canutillo ISD bond previous.
No, I didn't say that school bonds, lack of them passing, being killed. But the fact of the matter is that you made up lies about that UMC bond to deceive your listeners into opposing it.
Okay, so specifically giving you a chance here, what did I lie about? What can you actually point to that I said that was not correct when it came to the amount of money being spent on it, the different aspects of it, and the different perspectives that we had on from those that were involved in the different sides of the issues?
You've repeatedly communicated that if this bond doesn't pass, that doesn't mean that lives are going to be, you communicated the lie that this bond passing, it's going to save lives of El Paso's poor and El Paso's children. That's an objective fact, and that's you misled and lied to your listeners that it wouldn't.
I'm just going to say size sort of need it. I mean, that's your analysis. You're certainly entitled to your analysis on it here, but to say that, well, I've declared it and therefore it is objective facts, I think you need to see if that's a falsifiable belief or not. From your philosophy studies, you should be able to understand that if you can't prove the negative of something like a comment like that, it's an opinion, not a fact here. So as much as I love going around the ring on this, I'm sure we'll continue talking about it again. This current revenue bond, different from the previous ones we talked about. I've also, with this current one, been juxtaposing it with some of the previous ones. That was going to be a certificate of obligation bond. This one is going to be a revenue bond, so completely different on that. So I tell you what, again, as much as I would love to have longer conversations with you, not really the format we're in. We got to take that break right now to get in to the end of the hour here. So appreciate the point in the call for what it's worth. Anyway, let's go ahead and get into that and tell you what we got coming up for you on the program. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this brief break. Getting towards the end of the show here. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso, News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
I-10 westbound's got some slow traffic through downtown from Piedras out to past McRae with 8-minute delays. I-10 westbound at Airway, a semi is blocking the right shoulder. On Trans Mountain, eastbound at the Summit, an 18-wheeler has stopped in the right lane, stay to the left to get by that. That earlier stalled vehicle on North Desert Boulevard just before red has been cleared off to the side. All lanes are back open. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Lowe's. Lowe's is partnering with HDTV for the second season of Build It Forward, giving back to the communities they serve. Inspired by Lowe's Hometowns program, hosts Tania Nayaka and Shane Duffy are traveling to surprise community heroes with life-changing renovations. Watch Build It Forward all new Saturdays at 6, 5 Central.
A catalytic converter is an important component of your car's exhaust system. They can cost several $1,000s to replace. Cats can be removed in under a minute and have a high scrap value. Keep your vehicle safe from cat burglars. Park in well-lit areas. Install a protective device. Have your VIN number etched onto your catalytic converter. It's a total catastrophe. If your catalytic converter is stolen, lock it down. Learn more at lockitdowntx.com. Brought to you by the Insurance Council of Texas and the Motor Vehicle Crime Prevention Authority.
The El Paso Community Foundation supports the causes you feel passionate about here in the Borderland, whether it's education, social services, arts and culture, the environment, health, or economic development. The El Paso Community Foundation has been promoting philanthropy and progress in our hometown region for more than 45 years. Make your mark with us. Start a fund today for good, for El Paso, forever. Learn more at epcf.org. That's epcf.org.
This is a special alert to all Americans who own a vehicle with less than 200,000 miles with an auto warranty about to expire or with no warranty coverage at all. Due to a decline in the economy, CarShield is announcing a low-cost month-to-month vehicle protection plan that is now available to the public to save any driver out-of-pocket expenses on future auto repairs. Call now to find out how you can pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. Yes, you heard that correctly. Pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. An open phone line has been established for all drivers to call for a free quick quote. Call 800-989-8906 now. Drivers who are covered will not have to pay for covered repairs again. This protection plan is at an all-time low. Additionally, drivers who activate this vehicle protection today will also receive free roadside assistance, free towing, and car rental options at no additional cost. Call us for your free quick quote today. 800-989-8906. That's 800-989-8906. What do you have to lose? Call 800-989-8906. Again, 800-989-8906.
My mom and dad are the best. Ever since they called the early childhood program, I'm doing so much better, and mom and dad don't worry or stress as much as they used to. They seem a bazillion times happier, and all services are free.
Parenting isn't easy, so we signed up for the free early childhood program at the El Paso Center for Children. They taught us how to deal with COVID-19 stress and be better parents. Lots of other free services are available. Call 915-500-4105. That's 500-4105.
The Good Feet Store, improving people's lives 2 feet at a time.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for having joined us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I have been your host, Andrew J. Polk. We covered a lot of ground today, but of course we got a lot more yet to come. Again, some of the things on the horizon will be further conversations, hopefully, scheduling pending the scheduling of it. They are with those current and former city reps that have been mentioned, and again, the investigations going on when it comes to the P cards, the gas cards, all of the purchasing cards, and public monies spent with it. I mean, there's a lot of questions there, and so hearing straight from them is one of those things that we like to do. So invitation has been made. They have agreed in principle. Got to get it on the schedule, so to speak. That also, of course, we didn't even get to the stuff I had meant to bring out for the Texas legislature, including the deal in concept, if not reality yet, about getting towards that property tax reform or relief, or what do you want to put it, or the CHIPS Act in Texas. So we'll have to get to that tomorrow, but we got a lot more to talk about. There's never a lack of things to talk about affecting or going on here in the Borderland. So we'll do it again tomorrow, as we do every Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m. So until then, until next time, want you all to stay safe out there, look twice for motorcycles when out on the road, and have a great evening, y'all. We'll see you tomorrow.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
I-10 westbound's got some slow traffic through downtown from Piedras out to past McRae with 8-minute delays. I-10 westbound at Airway, a semi is blocking the right shoulder. On Trans Mountain, eastbound at the Summit, an 18-wheeler has stopped in the right lane, stay to the left to get by that. That earlier stalled vehicle on North Desert Boulevard just before red has been cleared off to the side. All lanes are back open. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Portions of the following program were pre-recorded.
Hey, El Paso, Ivan Ochoa, General Manager of Sunland Park, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Thank you again, El Paso, for making us #1 year-to-date in new car sales. As a gesture of gratitude, we're offering huge savings on all new and certified pre-owned vehicles. More for your trade with no payments for 90 days.
Thank you, boss man. This week at Sunland Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Get $10,000 off MSRP on remaining 2022 Grand Wagoneer SUVs. Get $6,000 off MSRP on 2023 Jeep Gladiator trucks. Get $1,000 off MSRP on 2023 Jeep Wrangler Sport and Sahara. Plus super low 2.8% APR for 72 months on 2023 Ram 1500 Laramie and Lone Star trucks. Worried about your trade or credit? Don't sweat it. Our aggressive lenders will push to improve your credit, even if your credit is less than perfect. It's the season of huge savings at Sunland Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, and I-10 at Sunland Park Drive, or online at sunlandparkdodge.com. Estamos en tu esquina, El Paso. El Paso strong. Includes factory rebate dealer discount plus TTNL. 2.9% APR is $15.50 per thousand finance on select vehicles with approved credit. Offers not combined.
News on the hour and a half. Traffic and weather all day. News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook. Former President Trump has pleaded not guilty to federal charges related to his handling of classified documents. He appeared at an arraignment hearing at a federal courthouse in Miami Tuesday. White House correspondent John Decker says federal magistrate Judge Jonathan Goodman presided over the arraignment hearing rather than U.S. District Judge Aileen Cannon.
Goodman is someone who does not have a lifetime appointment to the bench, unlike Judge Cannon, and she initially, anyway, has been assigned this case.
Trump became the first